This episode of HBCU Pulse Radio is sponsored by Cricket Wireless. What's going on, everybody? This is Randall Barnes, the founder of HBCU Pulse and the host of HBCU Pulse Radio, in the building for another special edition of the show on today, where HBCU football is officially back. The Cricket MEAC SWAC Challenge was this past weekend, and it was crazy. It was a game. We got so much to talk about, and then we got HBCU football officially kicking off. I got Arielle in the building. Arielle, how you doing today?
I just want to start off saying, Randall, I think you're going 1-0 with predictions this season, because I when I was watching, I was like, I'm losing. Oh, I'm losing. Oh, I'm not all the way losing. They didn't win, but I'm losing. I was like, okay, we're starting off good. We might be the crystal ball this year that we want to be. Just a little bit. Just a little bit.
Listen, we just might be, because I'm not gonna lie to you. When I was watching the game and Norfolk State goes up 14-0, I was like, man, listen, I knew it would be close, but I didn't think close would be relative to, like, fam, you might get close to winning. I didn't know that would happen. So they might get close with it. They didn't do it. But, like, listen, fam, you won the MEAC SWAC Challenge 24-23 in what honestly was an amazing game that capped off an amazing week 0 for college football. Honestly, probably one of the best that I've seen for week 0. Just a lot of amazing storylines, upsets, all these different things, and it culminated on ABC. Daniel Richardson did his thing. He was the MEAC SWAC Challenge MVP, and James Colzie gets his first win for FAMU. But Norfolk State, Kavon King went crazy. And Dawson Odoms, he proved he can definitely coach, and Norfolk State might have a good season coming up. So, Arielle, I want to start with you. On a scale of 1 to 10, we're going to do the old school first takeaway, okay? On a scale of 1 to 10, how shocked were you that Norfolk State looked so impressive?
I mean, you start the first play of the drive with an 18-yard run. I don't know how much more impressive they could get that. And then you don't give FAMU their first lead until the third quarter. I mean, it just gets better and better. You go up 0-14. You lead them only to field goals. You close out the half leading. And then all of a sudden you do what Norfolk does, and you just start making stupid decisions 6 minutes left into the fourth quarter. Very, very upset. But, we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about the start. If I have to say just shock value of how wrong I was, besides them not taking this dub, shock value of how impressed, I would have to say I give them a strong 7. Only deduction of points, just because I hate, me, I hate that 2-point conversion call if it's not necessary, and we're definitely going to get to that. I hate how they fumbled at the end, literally and figuratively, of where they were standing with FAMU. I also hate how just they were so close. They were so close to an upset, and then everything just unraveled out of their hands. But I have to give them points on where they stand and how they kind of dabbed in a little bit into FAMU's own game, using the air game against them, making sure that they were playing man-on-man coverage. They looked so good out there. I really thought it was believable, but 7 out of 10, man, like, congratulations to Norfolk State to even making that into a 1-point game. Like, that was an amazing game.
It honestly was. Like, when I was going into the game, because I know I said that I thought the game would be close. The reason why was because you have Norfolk State that's returning a lot of their starters from last year, even though Otto Coons didn't play in that game. Then you have a FAMU team that they have some guys that are returning. They have some key pieces that left. They've graduated, tried to go to the NFL draft, or they entered the transfer portal when Willie Simmons left. And we know James Colzie, he's been around the block. He's a really great coach. But I just knew that there would be an adjustment. They weren't going to be the FAMU of Willie Simmons, because I think the FAMU with Willie Simmons, I think that they win that game decisively. I think it's almost a repeat of what we saw last year, but we expect FAMU to do that. but I knew that they had to feel themselves out, especially with a new quarterback in Daniel Richardson, who is really good, got FBS snaps, doing his thing. It was a lot of people for some reason that were like, oh, Daniel Richardson ain't really good. Like, he might not be good. And I'm like, what are y'all watching? Like, just because at the start of the game, he might have made some mistakes and an error, not too egregious. He didn't fumble the ball. He didn't throw an interception. It was just some miscues because it's week 0. It's the start of the season. This guy is good. He is honestly as different of a quarterback for FAMU as I've seen from Ryan Stanley to Jeremy Musa. Like, he can run and he can throw. Like, I just was really impressed by FAMU in general for pulling back into that game, because that was what I was expecting. I almost want to say Norfolk would win, because you just don't know. It's an unknown quantity, and this is a new team, and Willie Simmons is not walking through that door, although he was watching the game. He was watching the game. He was tweeting about it, so I'm glad he's not too far away from HBCU life over there at Duke. But with Norfolk, just to talk about just how impressed I am, I give them a 10. I give them a 10. I think that they're going to be great this year. I think that they're going to really compete. I think that Dawson Odoms is going to save his job. And I think Kavon King, he's going to be the man. Like, that man can run. He was running through FAMU's defense. They adjusted in the second half, and that's what coaching is. What we talk about when we talk about amazing coaches. But, man, Kavon King is that guy, and I'm interested to see what he does in the MEAC, because I think that he's going to be in that tradition of the amazing running backs that we see in HBCU football, specifically from that conference. Like, Dawson Odoms had a game plan. He had his guys ready. He made some mistakes. We're going to talk about, like you said, that 2-point conversion. I have my thoughts on that. I know you have your thoughts on it, but I just think that outside the 2-point conversion, I think that they played a great game considering the circumstances and the fact that a lot of folks thought that this game wouldn't be close. And y'all had every right to think that, because Norfolk has not been great the past 2 years. And then the year before, when Dawson Odoms first got there, they were great. They were coming off COVID. But then you have 2022 and 2023. They just simply were not good. But there is something different about this team. And I don't know if we're going to fully see Norfolk State be in the Celebration Bowl or compete with North Carolina Central and Howard. I really don't know that. But what I do know is they're going to be someone you got to go out and beat. Just the name on the jersey or the logo on the helmet, they ain't going to beat them. Howard got to go beat them. South Carolina State got to go beat them. North Carolina Central has to go beat them. If they stay healthy and Dawson Odoms continues to coach the way he coached in that game, although Colzie figured it out, hey, I am high on I'm high on Norfolk State, and I was almost speechless with that 14-0 start. But what I will say, as we then transition to FAMU in a second, it felt like the Celebration Bowl, because the Celebration Bowl started off, FAMU was down 0-14, and I was like, well, I got my Howard jacket on, so I mean, we're on the radio station, so I mean, it's fine for me, and then all of a sudden, they come back and win 30-26. I don't know why FAMU likes to play with our emotions like that, but they do. And they were down 0-14, and they came back and won. But I don't think this is FAMU just won this game. I honestly believe the story is that FAMU escaped Norfolk State. And I think that Norfolk State made a statement. And in the MEAC, it's going to get really interesting. So let me ask you this about FAMU. So what was your impression of Daniel Richardson as FAMU starting quarterback? He finished the game with 286 yards, 22 of 30 passing, 3 touchdowns. He had also 3 carries for 32 yards. And to be honest, him running really jump-started the offense. Like, because they were at a standstill for a minute, and then Dan Richardson was like, I'm just going to tuck it in and I'm going to run. And I just think that for me, what I will say about Daniel Richardson is I watched his stuff when he was at FAU. And it was so funny to me because when Daniel Richardson transferred over, FAMU played University of South Florida, so they played a really good game. And the thing I said last year is that FAMU played University of South Florida better than Alabama did. And I was like, hey, listen, we must be doing something right over here in HBCU football. But then you see Daniel Richardson against University of South Florida. He puts up like 300 plus yards against them. Like, he's not that tall. That's been a huge discussion okay, in these HBCU internet streets of, well, he's not that tall. He's 5'10". Well, he's tall enough, okay? People love to talk about height, Arielle. He's tall enough, okay? 5'10", and clearly what he lacks in height, I didn't know quarterbacks were basketball players. What he lacks in height, he makes up for with his IQ and just his knowledge for the game, his ability to read the defense. So I honestly was very impressed with Daniel Richardson. And to be honest, like you said, Arielle, like piggybacking off what you said, I really believe that Daniel Richardson really, truly helped them win this game, because if it wasn't for him figuring out a way to jumpstart that offense in like the second quarter and then lead them down the field so they didn't go into a deeper hole than 0-14, I don't know what would happen. So Daniel Richardson, he's that guy. I'm excited for him. So I want to know what you think about it.
When looking at him, Daniel Richardson reminded me of a 2023, and I'm sorry if I butcher his name, DJ Uiagalelei from Clemson. He became really stocky, really big. We already knew DJ was short, but that's when I looked at Daniel Richardson. I said, "This is FAMU's quarterback. This is who y'all chose." Completely different from the picks that FAMU usually has. They're really super tall, strong, but not stocky, very lean, so that way they're able to move. And one of the things that I did see, which I have to agree with you with, I think FAMU's pockets, they were terrible. They weren't holding anything. And I don't think they gave enough time for Daniel Richardson to really do what he wanted to do. You really didn't see his arm strength until the third quarter, especially in the fourth quarter. I mean, it's impeccable. This man can really throw, but he was the mobile quarterback that I would have loved to see to me at Norfolk State. I think Norfolk State had a great pocket. Norfolk State, the offensive line is amazing. I have no errors, no demerits on them. But when it came to FAMU, I think he was forced to be able to move. I think he was forced to be able to run. And that you can't give FAMU those kind of options, especially with a quarterback like this. Highly impressed with the way that he ran, how many yards that he ran for. This man made up more yards for the game than half of the other team. If you look at those stats, he's half of those yards on there. And that's exceptional to me. I think, however, when you're going against teams like Jackson State and then you're going against teams like Alabama State, they're not going to let you run on them like that. Those are better defensive teams. And I think it's going to be very important that they build around him to let him stay in that pocket and not move so much. I also like that Daniel Richardson knows how to throw on his feet. And that is the most amazing footwork, hand coordination that I've seen go down the field in this year of FAMU against their quarterbacks that I have not seen before. This man can throw on this run. This man can pass on the run. This man can just do anything on the run. And I think that's a weapon for FAMU. Other than that, like I said, they're going to have to be able to keep that pocket standing while he's there, because you can't tire out your quarterback and you can't injure him halfway through the season. Your quarterback is mostly there if only to run if he has to, but he is there to make everybody else the plays. He's there to read the defense and make plays on the spot, do whatever he needs to do, pass, but he's not there to run all the time. Great asset, but you can't force him to do that every single play. So that was the only thing that was scaring me a little bit during this game. I was like, my quarterback is doing more work than what he has to. Is he great at it? Yes. Can he do it? Yes. Is he an amazing passer? Of course. Is he amazing on the run? Absolutely. But I don't have time to go halfway through the season or get to a big game like Jackson State or like Alabama State, and then I injure my quarterback because my team cannot protect him in the pocket.
I think that's fair. And I want to pivot to this, because one thing that I came away from this game really thinking about FAMU is this a great win for them. But this isn't Willie Simmons' team anymore. And it's clear because he's gone. And I mean, and typically when a coach leaves or the coach comes, it's going to be a different culture. And one thing that the FAMU alumni and students and supporters and fans wanted was they wanted a continuation of that Willie Simmons era. That's the reason why they wanted James Colzie, because James Colzie was on that Celebration Bowl winning staff. But it's different. And now we have to see FAMU, as we said last week, create a new identity. Because to me, FAMU's defense was like that, especially last year. But I really knew FAMU for just the offense that they ran, like the flea flicker they had in the celebration mode. That really encapsulates the Willie Simmons era to me. Like really going for it, really being a high-minded play caller, really shooting your shot or throwing the ball, whatever football equivalent. Because shooting the shot is a basketball thing. Whatever football equivalent of shooting your shot, like Willie Simmons would do that. Like, what is this team going to be? James Colzie, he's a defensive guy. Shout out to College Game Day, because College Game Day did a little mini, 20-second feature, okay, on the MEAC SWAC challenge that clearly helped the ratings because it got 1.3 million views. The most viewed MEAC SWAC challenge in history is more viewed than the 2010 version of the game. And maybe, Arielle, it was because of College Game Day, they 20-second summation, and then we saw it in the Florida State game, watched the MEAC SWAC challenge. I felt like we was important for once, Arielle. I felt like we was important, okay, and Dion was nowhere in the vicinity because he got to deal with North Dakota State. But that's neither here nor there. What I'm saying is that you look at James Colzie and look at what he showed on College Game Day. James Colzie is a defensive guy. He played for Florida State under Bobby Bowden, had a really crazy interception. You know what I'm saying? So, like, he is a defensive guy through and through. He's a defensive back. So is that going to be the identity? Because we didn't really see that until the second half when it came to them stopping what Norfolk State was doing well. Are they gonna be the gunslingers? Are they gonna be the rack boys like the back in the day FAMU? Because Dane Richardson maybe could be that. But like you said, like they got to make sure they're protecting him, and they got to make sure Dane Richardson have to tire himself out doing all the work. That is what I'm leaving this game worried about with FAMU. Who are you? Because what I saw and what we all saw, what 1.3 million people saw on ABC was not Willie Simmons' team. It was a new team that needs to find themselves. And I'm going to leave this to you for later on, Arielle, but like, I'm just going to say this just real quick. That team in that first half against Norfolk State, you're not doing it against Chennisberry. Okay, you're not doing it against Chennisberry. I just want to just let that be known to someone, a Fort Valley State University graduate, where his team skull drug us in 2022 and 2023, one time on prime time on ESPN, okay? Well, I thought it was going to be a good game. No, sir. And I say this every time I talk about Chennisberry, because Chennisberry is like that, and folks are playing with Chennisberry. That FAMU I saw, y'all better tighten up when y'all go back to Bragg. And y'all can't do this for the rest of the season either. Alabama State, when y'all go down for homecoming, all these other different games. Jackson State, when y'all not playing the Orange Blossom Classic, y'all playing Jackson State later on in the season when you all have your group. Y'all can't do that. So I'm very shaky because I need for FAMU to find their identity if they really want to repeat. And I want to say real quick before I toss to you, Arielle, I got on the Celebration Bowl shirt, okay? I'm rooting for FAMU, you know what I'm saying? I picked against them, still like FAMU, okay? I also like championship apparel, okay? Although I did pick Alabama State, just know I will be getting another championship t-shirt. I like championship apparel, all right? I need the Ravens to do something for me too, all right? But listen.
They're not doing nothing for you this year. They ain't doing nothing for you this year.
We will see. We will see. We will see. But I'm just saying, this is not the FAMU that this t-shirt represents. This is a whole new team. They define themselves and they want to get back here. Cricket with this speedy 5G network reminds you HBCUs are all about networking, and there's no better way to network than on Cricket Wireless. Maybe that's why people who come to Cricket stay with Cricket. Cricket 5G requires compatible devices and is not available everywhere. Discount varies per line, additional fees, usage, and restrictions apply. See cricketwireless.com for details. But listen, let's talk about Norfolk State and what happened with the 2-point conversion. So they get a touchdown to make it 24-23. And I'm like, oh, we have a game. Oh, man. So then they go to kick the field goal first. FAMU blocks it. I'm like, oh, that's crazy. But then we see it's some laundry on the field. It's offsides. I'm like, okay, wow, interesting. They're going to kick it again. It's all good. It's going to be 24-24. All of a sudden, we see Norfolk State's offense line up. Then we see like a quarterback run. And then like the 2-point conversion that they went for was unsuccessful. And when I tell you that took up all the oxygen in college football that night of like, why did Dawson Odoms go for a 2 2-point conversion. So, Arielle, let's contribute to the conversation the best way we can. Okay. So, what do you think about that play? Should Dawson Odoms have gone for the 2-point conversion? Now, I want to say this too. He said that the reason why he did it was because he's there to win the game. And also his guys were cramping. And we saw that they had some stuff going on the sideline that we're not going to talk too much about. But his guys were cramping, and he ain't there to tie the game. He's there to win the game.
I went for 2 because I felt like a lot of guys started cramping. So don't know if we'd have had enough of gas to finish that football game. But when you make that penalty, our offense had been playing well. And I can live with that decision. Because we didn't come down here to play a football game. We came down here to win a football game. And that's the mindset that I've always coached with, and that's the mindset I want our guys to play with.
Arielle, what do you think?
You had 6 minutes left. You can still win the game. That's what. If I don't know if everybody, I am not the biggest fan of stupid decisions. Let me rephrase that before the comments come for me. I'm sorry. Let me rephrase that. I'm not a big fan of unreasonable decisions unless the situation calls for it. You have, once your quarterback was touched down to the ground, you had over 6 minutes, I think 6 and 12, 6 and 20 between then to run any other play to get a stop after you tied it against FAMU and to run back down that field how you have been doing in under 5 minutes to do another play. I have no idea. And to me, players are going to cramp. This is football. We're playing in heat. It's Atlanta, peak of summer, 90. It's 7 p.m. Friday. It's 95 degrees, Randall. We hot. It's hot in Atlanta. There's nothing else you can do. Drink your water. We want these players to be safe, but this is a freaking game. I'm sorry, Dawson Odoms. I love that you care about your players. I think they're going to love you for that. I personally got beef with you because you just need to do whatever you need to do. If you have to let FAMU run it down, run over your players, and then you have to come back to get another touchdown, at least you guys will be tied. There was no reason for you to call that play. To me, that wasn't even smart. It wasn't smart. You have too much time on the clock. If you're worried, substitute. Let's see what else you got, because obviously your team is looking really great. There has to be backups for every single player on that field. So why don't you just throw them in there, throw your second string in there, let them run a couple plays, whether they get a stop or not. Cool. We were 24-24 at the end of this. If they score another touchdown, all right, we'll be at 30-24. Maybe they missed the extra point conversion. All right, we're still at 30-24. You still got King. You got Cameron, who I think was probably one of the top players to me, Cameron Thomas. You got Jacquizz Jones that are making up over half of your passing yards to get downfield. Each pass that King has to one of them is over 20 yards. You're only going to take 3 minutes to make halfway, maybe even more, to closer to FAMU's goal. That's all you had to do. It sounds so simple in my head, but I get it. He was trying to win. Let's win smart. Let's do that. Let's win to where we're going to put ourselves in a position to actually take it. Because you know what you had when you didn't do that? You had offsides. You had pass interference. They ran through the block. They don't care about you anymore. They think, okay, well, you just made dumb decision after dumb decision for FAMU to win by 1 point. When all you had to do was just kick the field goal twice. They're not blocking it twice. And if they did, that's on me. But they're not blocking you twice. You know what you did wrong the first time. This is a second chance. I hate 2-point. Like I said, I hate 2-point conversions when the game is unnecessary. If there's still 6 minutes on the clock, I need you to run 2 more plays for me. Let's start the drills. Let's start the 2-minute drills right now. What do we have? But Randall, get me off the mic, because I don't.
Listen, I agree with you. I'm trying to figure out like what I want to say to diagnosis. I'll try to put it all together. So, Arielle, I've ever since 2021, Arielle, I've gone through a therapy journey. All right. So, and I got back in therapy. Okay, on this year, I got back in therapy, and I'm growing as a Black man. All right. And one thing that they talk about often in therapy, and this is a big therapy word, is self self-sabotage. Like, oh, you're in this relationship and you self-sabotage because of your ego, because you're insecure. You're at this job, you self-sabotage. Your friendship, you self-sabotage. This was self-sabotage, Arielle. He shouldn't have done it. You are totally correct. Listen, I get it. I played football a long time ago. Okay, it didn't go all that well. All right, listen. I get it. I'm just on this microphone. All right, and I talk and I write about it too. People can't try me too much because I write about it too. All right, and I write about the like FBS. I write about. Okay, so they can't try me too much now because I know what I'm talking about. But like I know I'm the basketball guy. I know that. Go to my Twitter. I'm the basketball guy, right? But I love sports because sports is like strategy. It's chess. It's war. And when you look at it, timing matters because you are correct. If this was like a minute left in the game and FAMU's getting the ball back and you know you can't stop it, okay, I understand the two-point conversion. But with 6 minutes, and FAMU did dominate the ball, and they held that ball, they were able to get down the field. But it's sort of his reasoning sort of works against him because it's antithetical to what happened. Because you're saying that, well, our guys are cramping, so let's go for this two-point conversion because I don't think our guys be able to make it. Well, were they still cramping? Because they couldn't stop anything at the end of the game. Like FAMU dominated that possession for 6 minutes, ran that clock down, and won the game. I don't know, because at the very least you kicked the field goal, and they already got offsides. They did block it. Okay, cool. But you kick the field goal, you get another opportunity. Now your field goal kicker is expecting what's happening. So maybe, or the blockers can do what they need to do. Now you put the ball back in FAMU's hands to get in field goal range or to get a touchdown. And the worst thing is you might go to overtime because they can't dominate the possession just trying to run the clock out. They need to try to make plays, at least how I look at it. Or you get the ball back, then all you gotta do is hit a field goal. All you gotta do is go for it on fourth down or what have you.
I need you to stop being in the game and be in real life. And I need you to hit that second field goal. They can't run out the whole clock, like you said. You have a defense that can go against FAMU. You've proven that throughout the whole 3/4 of the game. You had a chance, but no. You want to, and you're in, like, the fact that he chose this isn't what pisses me off. What makes me upset is your reasoning. My dudes were cramping. That's their life. That's who they are. They are football players. We both work in journalism. We're not stopping just because our hands cramp or our mic went off or the Wi-Fi goes out.
Well, I might stop now. Wait a minute.
You gotta roll with me here. I'm making a point. Roll with me here. We're not stopping. We're gonna find a way or make one. Shout out to Clark. We're gonna do what it do. Aggies. Fort Valley, I don't know the memo, but we're gonna do
Empower the possible. Empower the possible.
Exactly. We're doing that. We're moving through that. He wasn't trying to move with them. And that's what I need you to understand. Yes, people cramp. Call a timeout. Use your timeouts. Do whatever you gotta do. Hook them up to I don't know what's legal on the sidelines. Who really knows? Do whatever you got to do to put these boys in the game. Your quarterback was definitely doing it. Your wideouts were definitely doing it. Oh my God, y'all were running mostly down the field, which FAMU could not stop the run against them. Run out the clock. They gonna make me mad all over you. Seen that TikTok and be like, you try, like your therapy sessions, you're trying to write out all your frustration, and then the situation just makes you mad again. I was over this situation until we brought it up again. More of the story is Dawson Odoms, unless it's a 2-minute drill, you got 1:30 on the clock. Don't ever call that play ever again. That is what pissed me off.
And you know what's so crazy, Arielle? I'm looking at the screenshot of what was going on with the field goal. So it's 6 minutes, 29 seconds, okay? 24-23. FAMU has 3 timeouts. Norfolk has 2. If you clearly don't care about game control, take a timeout. You're right. You know what I'm saying? Give them some rest. Get them some water at this point, because it honestly, the reasoning, I'm glad he owned it. What I'll say is I'm glad he owned it, because he started off the press conference in his opening statement saying, hey, we went for 2. this is why I went for 2. Our guys were cramping. I wasn't trying to tie the game. I'm trying to win the game, and we'll live with it. I do appreciate that level of accountability because I think that there are some coaches that would have not taken that accountability, or they would have tried to evade the question if one of the reporters asked it. But I just think that it was just the wrong decision, and it's not gonna hurt nobody. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, you had a great showing, and I don't think this takes away from the great showing. It was a bad decision because really Norfolk still had a chance in that game, in my honest opinion. And FAMU really escaped them. And like you said before, and we talked about this last year, for some reason, Norfolk State, when it comes to crunch time, they say LeBron isn't clutch. Like what the world? Like this year, they always seem to lose close games. Even and Arielle, you know how I feel about the Division II thing. They just were up and out of these Division II schools. These cupcake schools. We just gonna beat them. Virginia State beat Norfolk in a similar fashion, and with a crazy ending that Virginia State ends up winning. Norfolk could have won that game still, even though Virginia State was good. That's their rival, and they're competing against them. But what happened? Bad decision making. And it seems like that's something that always happens with this Norfolk State team. I can't even say that was something that happened necessarily at Southern, because Dawson Odoms has some great teams at Southern. He just couldn't really make it past Alcorn, because they would beat Grambling some of those years, especially after Devontae Kincaid, because Grambling started to run it those 2 years. But they would make it past Grambling in the Bayou Classic, and they could never beat Fredman and Alcorn. In my recollection of it, I cannot remember like Dawson Odoms, oh, he messed that game up. He threw it away. They weren't clutch. I can't say that then, but I can say that now. I don't know what happened. Did the change from blue to green? Did the mascot, what is this change in scenery? I don't know. This is I don't get it. I'm glad Dawson Odoms owned it. That's all you can ask for. He owned it. But you got to own the CL2 at this point. Arielle, so listen, let's talk about week 1 of HBCU football. Let's talk about our games of the week. We got some pretty good games coming up. We got a lot of HBCUs that are going to be playing out of conference, also playing FBS opponents. So I want to toss to you, Arielle. You got a lot of amazing options. So what is your game of the week for this week?
I mean, the only game that you can go for, minus Willie Simmons, that's South Carolina State and FAMU. I've never told you how excited I am, or maybe it just didn't transcend through the podcast last week, but I'm very excited for Chennis Berry. It's Chennis Berry and the Bulldogs. It's no longer South Carolina State. It's just Chennis Berry. Chennis Berry, he is the staple. He is the name for South Carolina State, because I'm ready to see that defense, that Benedict defense that had them going undefeated and running through these boys, making them call home, sending them to hospitals. That's what I'm ready to see. And I don't think FAMU is ready for that personally. FAMU thought they had a defense. Go play Benedict. You about to play them next week. And I'm super excited about what is about to go down. It's about to go down against FAMU. However, I do think that South Carolina State does have a little bit of a problem because they haven't chosen a quarterback, as far as I can see. There's three quarterbacks that could play, and that was one of those things that we had trouble with South Carolina State 2 years ago. They were running through quarterbacks. There wasn't the same quarterback that played every 2 games. It was always a different one when they couldn't make it. They even switched quarterbacks during some quarters, and you don't want that kind of inconsistency. Choose a quarterback throughout this game. Let him play the whole game unless an injury comes up. I wouldn't mind you switching him during the half. I don't want to see quarterbacks switching during the first quarter. That to me is just going to be a little confusing. Every quarterback has their own way of playing. Every quarterback has their own way of playing calls. And whether they decide to do a clap, whether they decide to do a snap, whether they decide to do anything else, you do not want to confuse the players that are already on the field, especially at FAMU. Get something consistent, because FAMU right now, besides the way they looked at this Norfolk State, FAMU is very consistent. They know how they want to play. They know who they are. You're going to have to play consistently when you play FAMU. I also think this could be one of those games, since we might have a defensive battle. We're probably looking at Jackson State and FAMU of last year when they went 7-6. I wouldn't mind a game like that. South Carolina State, to me, I would hope they win. This is more of my hopes if we're thinking about real life, if we're thinking about facts. Maybe FAMU can pull out a undefeated 2-0 right now, which wouldn't be bad. It sounds very probable, but I would expect this to be a really, really close game. That's what I want to see. And especially if South Carolina State wants to win this, South Carolina State has always been good at the run. They always had great running backs. They always had a great backfield. And I think that's something FAMU doesn't do often, nor do they kind of set focus to. FAMU is more, we're in the air and we're driving it down, which respectively, that's what you have a great quarterback for. That's what you have great wideouts for. That's what you have a great offensive line for. However, I think it's going to be very important for South Carolina State to accumulate all the yards that they can. If they have to use that running back, please use him at all times. We don't know which quarterback is going to be great, nor do we know which quarterback has the arm. It would be great if we can get some throws down the field. I think Norfolk State did a really, really good job of that, playing FAMU's game. But for South Carolina State, in order to win right now, I think we should play to our strengths, which is defensively and having really, really great running backs. They had a really great recruitment summer, and I'm very proud of the people that they have. So in order for South Carolina State to win this, let's just stick to the ground and let's just make sure that we get in that pocket. FAMU doesn't have a strong pocket. Let's make sure that we can move King around. Other than that, that's my game of the week, and I think it's going to be really, really good to see both of these teams come together who have both kind of the same strengths, but they use them differently. And I think this is going to be a really great game to introduce Chennis Berry to.
So are you picking FAMU or are you picking South Carolina State?
I am picking FAMU.
I thought you were picking South Carolina. Oh man, you left me on the island. Oh man, okay.
I'm sorry. I listen. I threw out there that I would love to be wrong. I'm sorry. I would love to be wrong, but I gotta see it. I gotta see it to believe it, and then maybe they'll have my vote.
Now see, watch how life works, Arielle. Now see, people won't watch the one from last week where I called that FAMU a win in a close game, and they definitely won't go back to that video that I did calling that Deion Sanders was going to struggle at Colorado, where folks was roasting me and us, and then all of a sudden people came back last year. They were like, they had a point. Like they're not gonna look at they're gonna look at this one and say he thought that Chennis Berry was going to end the home streak. He don't know football. You know what?
We're not talking, everything's not off the dome. We do our research every week, guys. We're not just saying this. I need y'all to go look at them 2 years at Benedict. They're gonna give them a run for their money, just not much of a run. Personally, that's just me. But like I said, I would love to be proven wrong.
Oh man, I'm gonna be so fired up for that game. But listen, so I picked my game of the week as Grambling versus Louisiana.
Ooh.
And it sounds very rough, but I didn't know which one you were gonna pick. Okay, because like you had Orange Blossom Classic, and then you got FAMU South Carolina State. Mm-hmm. So I tasked myself to say, okay, hey, I'm picking Grambling versus Louisiana. How is this my game of the week? First and foremost, is it? Think about that, okay? Because y'all know what in the back of my mind what my game of the week is. So ask yourself that, okay? But I will say that this is the game of the week for me because I'm really interested to see how Grambling does under Mickey Joseph. Him having FBS background, he was on the coaching staff for LSU back when they had that amazing 2019 run with Joe Burrow and Jamir Chase, and all of them. And then, of course, he was the interim coach at Nebraska. So you have a coach that understands, quote unquote, FBS structure, because the grass ain't always greener on the other side for FBS. And they have the same issues that some FCS programs do, maybe not monetarily all the time, but operationally, ego, of course, NIL, all these different things. So I think he's seen that side of the game. And Grambling, at the very least on paper, has always picked some really good coaches. You have Mickey Joseph with this FBS experience that is now going to be in that same seat Eddie Robinson sat in. So I'm interested to see what he brings as far as the culture and the level of preparedness for a game such as this. I think this is a winnable game. You look at Louisiana, they finished 6-6, and they lost in the New Orleans Bowl to Jacksonville State, a former FCS team. And you got Miles Crawley, who is an amazing quarterback. He stayed over from when Hugh Jackson left. And I think he's going to be probably one of the best, if not the best quarterbacks in the SWAC and also in HBCU football. So I just want to see what they have, because we're just looking at all these different games and we're like, what do these teams have? Like, what's the roster look like? And if you go up there and you really, truly compete, I'm not necessarily looking for a win, but the win is always the expectation. Like, and I didn't do too much of a deep dive on Louisiana's, like, their recruiting and different stuff like that, but 6-6. I think your best FCS teams that are talented can beat a 6-6 FBS team. And then on top of that, I think that the difference, and this is not like a exclusive thought as last thing, but when you look at these FBS versus FCS games, unless you're talking about, like, I think Prairie View is playing like Michigan State, that's probably going to get ugly. Like, you have some of these other teams, like you had Tennessee State play Notre Dame, and I know that they could have, I said they might have won, they might win, and they didn't, but they looked pretty good for like 2 minutes. Okay, it was cool, but like, you know, that I don't think Louisiana is Georgia or Michigan or Ohio State. Like, Graham plays Ohio State, I believe, in 2026. Like, this isn't them. I think that if Mickey Joseph recruited well on the offensive line and can protect Miles Crawley, who can spin it, and then you have a defense that maybe can disrupt the running game and that passing game, I don't know. I think it could be a low-scoring upset, because the Louisiana still got to get into the groove too. So I know the records can be deceiving because they're FBS, they played some good teams, and they made a bowl game. But I'm interested to see what happens there.
So who are we picking, Grambling or Louisiana?
I will pick Louisiana just because I'm picking South Carolina State for the other one. Just make sure I'm not just too wrong. I'm picking Louisiana, but I got, my heart is room for Grambling, and I will gladly be wrong if they did win.
See, you're gonna leave me alone on my own island, because I think Grambling can actually win this. I think Grambling could have been one of those teams that gave them one of those losses defensively. So I'm ready to see what they have now. I'm ready to see how much they have changed since these past few years, especially last year. I think Grambling might have a win, and if they start 1-0, that would be absolutely crazy.
So let's run through the slate in Division I for this week. So it starts on Thursday. You have Howard versus Rutgers. We're talking to MEAC right now. Who do you think wins that game?
You know, I love Howard with all my heart. I do. But game number 1, I just don't think is going to be them. So I'm going with Rutgers.
Rutgers. Okay. Rutgers. We're gonna agree on Rutgers, man. We're gonna agree on them. All right. So we talked about South Carolina State, FAMU, Norfolk State versus East Carolina. Who you got?
This, to me, listen, East Carolina was one of those games when A&T was in the MEAC that we always looked at, because it was always a toss-up, but I know they're a really good team. But just from seeing, you know, this is difficult. From what Norfolk State has already shown us, with Dawson Odoms, the change that has happened, I want to say this is going to be a close game. I'm going to take my L if it comes, but I think Norfolk State is going to pull this out.
I need for Dawson Odoms to pull out his iPhone. I'm pretty sure he has an iPhone. If he doesn't, that's fine too, because the Google Pixels are really nice, okay? Like, pull it really nice, okay? But pull it out, all right, and call your coaching contacts on what you need to do.
But no, I think Norfolk State, I think they can handle themselves. Close
East
game.
Carolina got this. East Carolina, but if they were to win, I would say I would not be surprised, but I don't think it's gonna be close. I don't think it's gonna be close for this one, but I could be wrong. Okay. Yeah. Listen. So Morgan State versus Hampton. All right. So who you got for this one?
I got Hampton. Honestly, you know, it's Morgan State. There probably has been changes, but they're kind of, they stay. I think it's become like, you know, their motto. They stay on this self-sabotage platform where it's like they're really doing great, and then all of a sudden they make one wrong play and it's like a curse. It just keeps going and going and going. I'm like, you didn't even have to do all that. And I don't know if they learned their lesson yet. So I'm gonna have to go with Hampton.
I think Morgan State wins. I think that defense is going to still be stout. I'm shaking on the offense until I see if they address the offense, because the offense just simply was not good last year. But I think that they returned some guys that did beat Richmond to start the year, and that was a crazy win over an FCS playoff team that eventually knocked out the reigning Celebration Bowl champions in North Carolina Central. I'm never going to bet against Damon Wilson. Damon Wilson is an amazing coach. He showed that at Bowie. I think he showed it last year. And I think that ultimately at some point, Morgan State is going to stand tall. And I think that that point is going to start this year. So I think that Morgan State wins this. Okay. So now this one here. Okay.
Yeah.
This one here. North Carolina Central versus Alabama State Orange Blossom Classic. We talked about this last week. Who do you have? Who do you have for this officially?
It's kind of hard to say because we don't have my man Davius Richards anymore. Trey Oliver is an astounding coach, an amazing coach, and what he's done for that team to turn them around both years is absolutely incredible. In all respect to them, coming from an Aggie, you get an Aggie's respect, and you can't go back. Like that's crazy. That's my only thing. I don't know what your quarterback situation is looking like. I know we have a few returning players, and I know you're going to try at all costs to get back into that number one spot that Howard beat you out of. But Alabama State, that is a really tough game. But if I in all fairness, I think I might stay MEAC with this one and say Central might pull this out.
I think that's fair. I'm picking Alabama State because I think that they start off the year hot with the win, and then they bring that eventually to the SWAC. I have questions on Walker Harris. I have questions. Now they're not defending questions like I'm questioning his ability. I think he's a talented quarterback, but you're replacing Davius Richard, and Davius Richard was the guy. And I think Walker, from what I've seen of him, I don't want to speak erroneously if I'm wrong on this. It's just is what it is. But I think that he's more of like a pass first player, and Davius was that dual threat that could run.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want to see what that offense looks like with Walker. Because I know Walker played against Mississippi Valley and he put up wins. You know what I'm saying? He put up touchdowns, all the different stuff. But I'm like, I want to see what he does, because a lot of folks are speaking very highly of him being the successor to Davius Richard. And I mean, if everybody's saying it, man, I believe it. I think he's talented. But that's Davius Richard, though. Mm-hmm. And that's a North Carolina Central team that was contending for a minute. And they really could have made the Celebration Bowl last year, but they somehow, some way lost to Howard. So I just want to see Walker Harris before I diagnose anything that North Carolina Central does. At the very least, even though Andrew Body was injured, he had a medical redshirt year last year because of course he played in the State Fair Classic and he got injured, didn't play again. He was actually looked really good. He was like maybe 50-60% for what I heard. Like, he played well in that State Fair Classic. I know what to expect with Andrew Body. And I think, and I will stay on this, I will stick on this. I think that Andrew Body will outplay Walker Harris if you give him the opportunity to. If they call plays that are feasible to Andrew's ability to throw and to run, I think that he'll do well. I don't think it's going to be a blowout by any stretch of the imagination, because we got to look at the coaching minds here. I think Trey Oliver is an amazing coach that we saw at the highest level in the Celebration Bowl for sure, figure out a way to win that game. And the only coach I really saw him truly have issues with, and we talked about this last year, was Buddy Pugh. Because Buddy Pugh just seemed like always, for some reason, for some of those years, had an upper hand on him for some reason. I have no idea why. But I just think that ultimately Alabama State is going to win this game, and they're going to start an amazing campaign where it's going to end in Atlanta. So Jackson State versus the University of Louisiana Monroe. They played Jackson State when Deion was there, and they actually beat Jackson State, and they really should not have beat Jackson State that year. It was I think James Houston got tossed, and it was some other things that happened that should have been the SWAC's first FBS win since the 80s. Like, there's no reason why they should have lost that game. I was not impressed. And then on top of that, they had a losing season that year. They did not have a good season. But I'm gonna pick University of Louisiana Monroe, but just to know I am rooting for Jackson State, and I can assure you that the Sonic Boom goes, they gonna win their battle. Okay, at the very least.
I'm gonna go with the Sonic Boom over here and say Jackson State.
What?
Look back.
Okay.
That's what I think Jackson State, the way that the SWAC is looking, I think they have a lot to prove, and they need to come out with the win early, or they're gonna end up the last seed of this whole conference, and they don't want that. So I think they need to prove their strengths now than later.
Interesting. So I think we might agree on this. So UAPB versus Arkansas.
You already, and I don't want UAPB to like feel like we don't like them, but like, have you given us anything to like really go off of?
Okay, so Alcorn State is playing UAB, the University of Alabama, not the former Nick Saban team. This is the Blazers. I think they're the Blazers. So who do you have for that? The Braves or the Blazers? I think this is definitely a dragon. Yeah.
I'm going to have a blind picking right now. I don't know much or follow much of UAB at that point, but I know Alcorn State from when we've played them and how they usually are. But last year they kind of disappointed me. There were a couple of games that I think Alcorn State could have won, but they didn't. I'm a little stuck on this one. For the sake of it, I'll just toss it up there. Maybe UAB.
So UAB went 4-8 last year, but they did get one of their 4 wins against North Carolina A&T, 35-6. So there was that. Okay, so I know like the win-loss gets different because of the fact that these are FBS teams. And UAB, I think I remember this. They played Georgia. They lost 21-49. So God bless them, man. Like they play. If they have guys that are coming over from last year, they played some tough competition, and they've seen the darkness, boy. I'm telling you, like playing Georgia, they've seen losses. Okay, and they ready to win. They ready to win, and they ready to pick up their HBCU win like they did last year. Okay, so I think that they're going to win. I think they're going to win this game. Honestly, I think that they're going to win this game. But of course, like I always say, I'm rooting for Alcorn State, but I'm also rooting for me to be right as well. Okay. So Mississippi Valley State versus Tennessee State. So do we agree on this?
Can we just agree?
Yeah.
I love you down, Mississippi Valley, but can we just agree? The words even coming out your mouth, they even know. They know what they're walking into.
Jerry Rice is not walking through that door. Tell me. So Bethune-Cookman versus South Florida. Okay, I'm interested in what you think about this. What we got for this one?
I personally got South Florida. That team is tough. Respectfully, I'm a Florida State fan, and then respectfully, I'm an A&T fan. Then respectfully, after that, I'm on the down low, super, 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 super down low of a Central fan. But let me tell you, Florida football. It's just Florida football. Florida just knows how to pick them. They know how to play. And personally, to me, watching USF last year and watching the years, they are tough. I'm sorry, but it's South Florida. I'm sorry.
So I'm looking at South Florida. They return. It looks like they are returning, if I'm not mistaken, looking at their depth chart. 28 graduates. So and 12 6-year players. Boy, they got grown men.
Exactly.
Like they they got man. That cover year messed everything up, man. I'm telling you. So and they got 9 players that got that were on national award list. So they got some good guys. They got Byron Brown from Raleigh, North Carolina. And he was on 5 watch lists, and they have a lot of really good guys. Yeah, no, South Florida's gonna win this game.
Yeah.
Listen, but I want to say shout out to Bethune-Cookman because they got Rick Ross' son and they got Big Boy's son. They got the son of hip hop legends, and maybe they'll come to one of these games. Just hopefully not this one. Okay, just not this. It might get ugly. Not this game. Okay, so we got an HBCU matchup in the SWAC: Texas Southern versus Prairie View. So we know Andrew Body is no longer at Texas Southern. We know that Prairie View has been very sneaky in their contention in the SWAC West. So who you got for this one?
This is like one of those games where it's just like I hope they're not playing at any other time because I gotta watch my game of the week and then I gotta watch some other games. But I would love to see this one if I can catch it. You know what? I agree with you. Prairie View has been super sneaky. Low key, everything in me is telling me to pick Prairie View, but I'm a play devil's advocate and say Texas Southern.
I think Prairie View is going to win. They want to stay competitive. I think the West might be as competitive as it's been in years, honestly. And I think that we could see Grambling in the SWAC championship against Alabama State. Just a totally new slate. I honestly believe that could be possible because Southern snuck in with Dooley. Then you had Prairie View that then snuck in, and Prairie View against Jackson State the year before that first year with Dion, that first full season. So I think that Prairie View is going to stay in the mix, but I think they win this game. But I don't know if they're going to be, when the dust settles at the end of the season, I don't know if they're going to be in the SWAC championship this year, but I think they start off with a win here. Now, Alabama A&M versus Auburn. Arielle, I was going to surprise you with the barking from Connor Manor from last year, but it's not on my board anymore. So yeah.
Great, because he wasn't winning this anyway.
Okay.
So it's no need to bark, no need to get riled up. Just let's save that. Let's save that for some in-conference games. Let's do that.
I think Auburn's going boat race Alabama A&M, and I think this might be Connor O'Malley's last year as the coach of the Bulldogs. Honestly,
he'll be bumping himself through the door.
So Southern versus McNeese. McNeese actually played during week 0, and they had a really good game. They have Clifton McDowell down there. He's a really great quarterback. And Southern, they have Terrence Graves. That's the coach now. They did get rid of Eric Dooley. We were very critical of him after that FAMU game last year because it was just some weird decisions, and his reasoning and rationale behind them were really weird. So I honestly think McNeese wins this game just because they played last week. They almost made a comeback in that game. So I think that they're going to have some momentum. And Clifton McDowell, he started to heat up at the end of the week 0 matchup. And he is a great quarterback. Like he is a playmaker in every sense of the word. And I don't know if Southern will necessarily be ready for that. But we also, now that Dooley isn't there, we don't know what the Terrence Graves Southern regime is going to look like. We know that Fred McNair is down there, and I think he's almost like the vice president to Terrence Graves' president, because if he don't work, I think Fred McNair takes over at Southern. But I honestly think McNeese will win this one, but I think Southern might start to fare better when they go into conference play. But what do you think?
You know, both of these teams have been through a lot. I think I would have to agree. I would have to see what Southern is bringing, what they're going to look like post their coach. And like how we did Norfolk State, it's okay just to see where you're at instead of trying to be every team that comes into your house. So we might have to agree that McNeese takes this win.
All right, so save the best for last, okay? North Carolina A&T versus Wake Forest. Okay, what do you think, Arielle?
My heart is that North Carolina A&T sweeps the mess out of Wake Forest so they can show that HBCU play isn't just HBCU play. Football is football regardless. But I pray that this is a close game. I do. I hope they try to make this a close game But I definitely believe Wake Forest, after the high that they were on Wake Forest was a great team last year. They were amazing. They did a lot of stuff that I wasn't even expecting from them. Um, North Carolina is a very special state in my heart when it comes to football and the way that they do their programs. They're really, really nice. But Wake Forest, so sorry, A&T. In my heart, down. I hope you make this the closest game, a winnable game for us. But with the new coach and still trying to cipher out what we look like as a team offensively, this would be a great test, a great way to see what we need to go back to the drawing board for. But Wake Forest is going to win this.
So I want to give a shout out to my guy Kelly Flicks, who on Twitter he had this real good rundown of what he thinks about A&T. He actually thinks that A&T is going to have one of the best, if not the best, running back room in HBCU football. And he specifically, in this post he put up on the 26th, he listed Wesley Graves, Kenji Christian, and Shimonique Blizzard. So I think that's going to bode really well. I really wish A&T was in the MEAC because I think that would speak more to their success after this game. And he said also they have good size on offense. How I look at A&T is this, okay? They're gonna lose this game. All right, they're gonna lose this game. I honestly, with Vincent Brown, I think that Vincent Brown is coaching just like how I said that Dawson Odoms was coaching for his job. He's coaching for his job, and that I think that the A&T job and the Hampton job are maybe. I want to keep my words careful because I'm gonna say the worst jobs you can imagine in HBCU football, but they're tough jobs. I'm not gonna say the worst jobs because that's a bad connotation. But the reason why I would say that is because you are set up to fail, especially if you're a new coach, because you are in the CAA with teams that want to be in the FBS. Like you have Delaware that's leaving the CAA and they're going FBS. They're going to the Sun Belt, I believe, next year. So you have teams that want to be in the FBS. They're building out their teams. They're recruiting, all these different things of that sort. You're new in the conference. And then Vincent Brown, not only was he new last year to the conference, he was a new coach on top of that, because at least Sam Washington was able to get some success in the Big South and almost won that championship. So I think he is in a bad place, but a bad way, as they say, because it don't like it's gonna be up. I mean, you beat Hampton for homecoming. I mean, and then it's like, oh, we want no. I don't see the way up here. And then how do you grade Vincent Brown, right? Okay, let's say he loses this game, but he looked good when he lost. Okay, then you move on, and then you beat Hampton and beat your HBCU opponents. I mean, win or lose the North Carolina job, I guess maybe that saves his job. But what if it's a 2-9 season or a 3-8 season? Are we gonna say fire Vincent Brown, or is it gonna be he's in the CAA, so I understand. And we're just gonna continue to build and see what he does. What are we looking at? Are we looking at incrementally? Is he gonna get recruits in? Is he gonna get transfers in? Are we looking at what the offensive line looks like, the quarterback situation, the running backs stay good, if they stay or they transfer? What are we looking at when it comes to this North Carolina A&T football team in the CAA? So I don't know. I'm sort of low on Vincent Brown only because it looked real bad. It seemed like North Carolina A&T was protesting throwing the ball last year. It honestly looked like it. It looked like they were protesting offense sometimes. So I just wonder. So I'm gonna pick Wake Forest. I think Wake Forest is gonna do him bad, Arielle. I'm sorry. I think Wake Forest is gonna do him bad.
And that's okay. As long as we gotta pick up somewhere. And if he can do that, if he can at least win 3 games straight, I think he might be able to keep his job. But I mean, I don't see the purpose of firing him after the first season and then going on a crazy goose chase of trying to find somebody that is going to help us in this conference. You guys should have never moved up anyway. Should stay where you were at. But and when you try, like how we talked about it, when you're trying to uphold a winning history, but this history is only against HBCU universities and teams. I mean, there's there's going to be downfalls. There's going to be hurdles that you have to work through. And as I've stated, I think it was kind of wrong how they did Sam Washington and how he kind of left and how they moved on from this circumstance and where we are at now. I don't think the solution is to just keep firing coaches, but to just analyze the situation and see where we could go from here. But that, that's just how personally I feel. But like I said, A&T in my heart always, but Wake Forest is going to take this game. But
listen, Arielle, this was a really fun show. Where can we find you on social media?
You can find me on Instagram at __.marterday Ari, or put me in the hot seat at @AskRiri _ on X, which we all know is Twitter. Or you can go on my website at arielkilgore.canva.com.
Like what you hear?
Yeah.
Subscribe to HBCU Pulse Radio on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Also, head to hbcupulse.com to stay up to date on what's going on in the HBCU community. Thank you for listening to HBCU Pulse Radio.